All right, we would like to get the program started soon here, so if everyone could please find a seat, that would be great. Good evening. I'm Cheryl Moranto, Chair of the Management Department here at Marquette. Management houses the entrepreneurship major as well as a number of other majors. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Kohler Center for Entrepreneurship's After Hours Speaker Series. Marquette offers students, whether business majors or not, an opportunity to explore entrepreneurship as a vocation. To first know yourself intellectually, socially, and spiritually, and to learn to recognize business opportunities that truly fit your personal goals and values. I'd like to remind everyone the Kohler Center is now accepting applications for Impact Next, the Business Model Challenge. It is open to Marquette undergraduate and graduate students, alumni and staff, as well as community members who are dedicated to fostering job growth and development in the Central City. If you are interested in participating and haven't done so yet, we do have a few deadlines coming up. Applicants must submit a registration form and a summary of their proposed business model, along with the $25 application fee by March 17th, and then your business model poster is due by March 24th. The competition will culminate with an event on April 7th when participants showcase their business models, and the top 5 finalists will be selected who will move on to the next round, and the grand prize winner will receive $2,000. Now it is my honor to introduce our speaker for the evening, Mr. John Stollenwerk. Mr. Stollenwerk is a double Marquette alum. Both his bachelor's and master's degrees are from here. After graduating, he worked for 10 years with government and Catholic international development agencies around the world. Upon his return to the United States, he established an import-export business headquartered in his hometown of Wauwatosa. In 1980, he purchased Allen Edmonds Shoe Corporation. During his time leading Allen Edmonds, he showed that quality people and a quality product are integral elements in any successful business, and that ethics are integral to the success of both leaders and businesses. Tonight, he will discuss his work at Allen Edmonds, as well as his commitment to keeping manufacturing in the United States. Mr. Stollenwerk has received numerous awards and honors during his career. I'll just name a few: the President's Award for Excellence in Exporting, Manufacturer of the Year by Footwear News Magazine, and the Governor's Export Award, among many others. He's also been named a Marquette University Emeritus Trustee. It's now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Stollenwerk. Thank you.
You know, the old adage goes, when Professor Stewart asked me to speak, I thought, my gosh, what do they want an old geezer like me up here for? But, you know, treachery and age will overcome youth and skill. So I accepted the challenge, and here I am this evening. And I hope we have some questions afterwards that I can answer for you. But something really apropos happened about a half hour ago while I was driving here. A young friend of mine and his wife, she's an MBA from Harvard, he's got an MBA from Stanford, have been looking to buy a business. And they've been looking for about a year and a half. And she was with McKinsey, and they've had a lot of dead ends. And today they were supposed to close on this business, and they found that the numbers weren't up to par, what they were basing their purchase price on, and consequently had to abort the purchase. So, you know, just a word of wisdom to the wise, from an old fellow that's gone through it, everything doesn't look as it appears sometimes. And I really felt, it was like a shock to hear this from this young man after I mentored him and talked with him for so many years, and then recently this search that he went through. And so he is really frustrated and up in the air, to say the least. I mean, my career really started in entrepreneurship when I was at Marquette High School. I worked my way through Marquette High School and through Marquette University. I had a painting company, and I employed other students. And sometimes while they painted, I would be able to duck out on a Friday night to the club tap and get a few beers while my coworkers were painting, but not very often. After that, I, as said, was with Catholic Relief Services. My wife and I were in Africa for a couple of years. And then I came back and had a great opportunity to start an animal feed business in Brazil with a Brazilian entrepreneur, and we saw a market niche there. And this was part of this company that I founded to be in commodities, and was an export-import company. Really was more of an export company. And this fellow in Brazil contacted me to help him find some whey powder, which is a byproduct of cheese manufacturing. And we became friends, and he was just starting a family in Brazil and had this idea to start this business. So I went in business with him. Neither of us had much at the time, and started this business in Brazil. And today we have about 1,000 people working there. And we export our animal feed throughout Latin America. And now we're more in the dog and cat food, which are great margins, because commodities, are listed worldwide every day. They move up and down, but cat and dog food doesn't. And so if you have a good marketing and advertising and a good product that the owner's pet likes, smells good, it sells well. So we started this business kind of in the middle of Brazil, in the middle of the state of Minas Gerais. And it's been very successful, and it's been a lot of fun. And I go back and forth to Brazil quite a bit. And in fact, we were so enamored with this whole project, perhaps I was more enamored than my wife. We were going to immigrate to Brazil. And my wife was a bit nervous about immigrating to Brazil, but I thought it would be a real adventure to do that and really build this business. And lo and behold, at the same time, this opportunity for Alan Edmonds came along. Now that was back in the early 1990s, late 80s, and 800 shoe manufacturing companies. There was a young man I just met from Spain whose family's in the shoe business in Spain. 800 shoe companies closed their doors in the United States of America over a 10-year period. And here I came along and came home one night and said to my wife, I bought a shoe company. Well, they all were weeping and crying. How stupid could I be to buy a shoe company? So what did I see in that shoe company? I saw a chance to manufacture absolutely the world's finest quality shoes. Pardon me, ladies, but they're men's shoes for men. And with that market niche and that idea, I immediately got into this business and changed the quality of the manufacturing of the product that we were doing, so that we were manufacturing the finest footwear in the world, and combining that with a great marketing program, and also starting to export, because all of our leather was imported from Europe, from France and from Germany, because there was no calfskin done here. And when I was young, calfskin was a major industry here in Milwaukee. And not only that, we ate veal like you all eat hamburgers today, because it was so cheap. Veal was so cheap. But that has really changed. So I thought if we were importing all of this leather, that we should be exporting our footwear. And really, the rest is history. It's really been very, very successful. And I ended up selling Alan Edmonds about 6 years ago. One of my coworkers is in the audience here this evening. And we went from about $9.5 million to almost $100 million over that time period, and with about close to 600-700 people over that time period from a very small base. We kept the manufacturing here because it was, again, part of the marketing. And as long as our margins were good, there was no reason to move. We maintained our margins by maintaining our quality. However, we did lose the hand sewers to do moccasin-type shoes and boat shoes. We were doing those in Maine, and literally a fellow or a woman would sit on a low stool, their mouth full of tacks, and tack the leather to the last, the form you make the shoes on, and actually run an awl and then the needle and thread through the top line of those shoes. Well, you can imagine that kind of work is not very, very interesting to young people today, so we ended up moving that to the Dominican Republic. That top sewing was done in the Dominican Republic, and today Allen Edmonds still has a factory in the Dominican Republic. Well, how did I get started with all of this? Well, the first thing we did is look at three things: quality, integrity, and service. So the first thing we did was quality. We wanted to manufacture the finest quality footwear in the world, and you can only do that if you have a quality manufacturing facility, staffed with quality people, and your business is one of absolute quality. We absolutely rested our entire business model on quality, so that when a customer would call us and complain about the shoes, that they weren't right, we'd ask them to send them back, and we'd replace those shoes if indeed there was a defect, with no questions asked. Ha-ha, you say, why am I still in business? Well, the computer helped us along those lines, so when Alex would keep sending those shoes back every 2 years, saying there was a defect, we finally would cut them off at that point. Service. There's only one reason you're in business, and don't ever, ever forget it. You are in business to serve the customer. You are in business to serve the customer. We never sold meetings at Allen Edmonds. We never sold, he's busy right now, she's busy right now at Allen Edmonds. The customer drove the business, the customer paid the bills, the business was only organized for the customer. How many times today have we been disappointed by that? I have Pella windows in my house, a great window, big price, had problems, had no resolving those problems, had no resolution here with the distributor in Wisconsin. So I wrote a letter to the president. Wow, right to the president. And about 2 weeks later, I got a letter back from customer service, telling me that, I don't know, part of it was my problem, but you see, the president of the company never took interest to write back to me as the customer. Instead, put it on to somebody else. Now, mind you, if that continues at that company, they'll soon be out of business because some competitor will come in, and like Anderson or Marvin Windows, and come in and knock that company off its pedestal by giving excellent service with quality. And the other thing was integrity. When we entered into the shoe business, this was an industry that had less than people of integrity. It was really, really a disreputable business to be in. And it was disreputable right from the get-go, from the manufacturer all the way through to the buyers at the stores. I mean, you'd go and see a buyer. I never went to see a buyer when it was around noon, because you'd always take them out, and some of the buyers not only would have a great big steak or lobster, but they'd also have a carry-out, take home to their wives. Can you believe it? So I always had my meetings at 10 in the morning with the customers, or after lunch at 1 in the afternoon, so I wasn't stuck buying a lobster dinner for 2. So integrity was so important, and in this business, there just was no integrity. There was people taking bribes. There was just a lot of less than integrity in the whole industry, as I keep saying to you. And we were one of those companies that we absolutely, this was our rule. This is how we operated. If you don't like it, in a nice way, you have to buy your footwear from somebody else. And even with customers that abused our system, I mean, sometimes you had to talk strongly to those customers or the suppliers. I'll never forget, the leather companies have different grades of leather, and we asked for the finest grade of leather. We didn't want anything but the finest. So the leather company said to me, we weren't talking about price. We didn't care what the price of the leather was. We just wanted the finest, because we could charge in that product for that price, higher price, and still maintain our margins. So he said, well, what am I going to do with this other leather? And I said, well, sell it to the competition. That's what you can do with the other leather. I don't want it. So we'd send somebody over into the tanneries in Europe on a regular basis to go through each skin and look at it for blemishes, and we would pick those skins and mark them, because otherwise the tannery would slip in a few not so nice skins and charge us the full price on the higher quality. So we really brought a sense of integrity into this business place. And consequently, we were successful. We are successful. The company keeps growing. I think today it's $125 or $130 million they're doing. So it's all through that quality, service, and integrity. I just absolutely staked our company on it. And that service is really taking care of you, the customer. Anywhere I was in the world, I would return a phone call. Anywhere, no matter where it was, I would return a phone call. Well, I'll tell you a few anecdotes now, one or two. We used to sell, you heard, all of the presidents of the United States from Reagan on, because Reagan was the first president when I owned Allen Edmonds. Each one purchased shoes from us. And the two Bushes were real shoe guys. And Reagan's father, by the way, was a shoe salesman. So that meant he sold shoes to the retail stores from the manufacturer. And I met all the presidents, and some came to our factory, and we've gone to some of their homes. So it's been an interesting business experience. Well, one day the Bushes were really interested, and George Bush was on the plane with Clinton, and they were flying somewhere or other on Air Force One, and they called me from the plane to see what shoes would be appropriate for the inauguration, or Bush's inauguration. So, I was thrilled by receiving this phone call from the two of them. And then another time, my wife called and said, can you imagine some guy called here and said he was the President of the United States? I said, oh yeah, and I'm Mickey Mouse or something like that. And sure enough, it was George Bush Sr., and he called the wrong number, his office did, and called me up at the office about 10 minutes later and say, oh gosh, tell your wife I'm really sorry. I made a mistake and called your house by mistake. So those are some of the anecdotes. We met some of the popes. Those shoes I gave away, because I know what it would mean if we charge. And I want to get up there fast, so I didn't want to fool around trying to extract money from the Vatican on our shoes. So we shod many actors in Hollywood for motion pictures, for movies, and they paid for their shoes. You never made any money giving product away. You never make money giving product away, really. And that was taught to me way in the beginning, because we used to get a lot of requests for charity. And the treasurer came one day, and he said to me, do you realize how many shoes you've given away? This is the amount. And that really hit home. But being in business and entrepreneurship, one thing you have to look at is the amount of time you put in. It's a 24/7 business. My family was all involved in it. They didn't directly work. Some of them, when they were in high school or college, worked in our retail store selling shoes. but they never were really involved in the business. But it's a 24/7 business. When they were little children, we used to take them to these shoe fairs in New York and Las Vegas, and they were involved with us in the business. They knew what was going on because I couldn't afford to be home. I mean, we were rebuilding a company that was teetering on bankruptcy. So it was a 24/7 business. The other thing is you have to look to see if you have a mentor. I had 3 mentors in my life, 3 mentors. One here at Marquette University was the Dean of Communications. It was my father died when I was a freshman here at Marquette. And that dean really took me under his wing and really became a close friend and a mentor of mine. And the second mentor was a fellow that was in the whey business, had a manufacturing plant in western Wisconsin, and I was selling that whey in Latin America for the most part. And he became my mentor and really helped me and guided me along and gave me good advice. And then the third mentor I had was not so many years ago. I was in my mid-50s. Two of them passed away, but the fellow that was in the whey business is still living. He's in his late 80s. The other fellow was the chairman and CEO of Northwestern Mutual Insurance Company and gave me a lot of advice and help along the way. And so I'm able to do that today. I mean, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. My wife and I work a lot with the inner city Catholic schools here, and I mentor a couple of young people. This young fellow that was he and his wife were looking to buy this business that fell through today. Another young friend of mine is starting a furniture manufacturing business. He's an engineering graduate from Marquette. And so we believe in giving back now. And so it's really, I'm having more fun than ever, not having to worry about the payroll and the receivables and the payables and the customers, not you, the customer, but the stores, the customer. And we really have a problem in our industry because if you think about it, in our product, there isn't one shoe store in the whole state of Wisconsin that can sell Allen Edmonds shoes at $350. There's just not one store left. So as we were speaking before, more and more stores are being opened by the manufacturer. And then you heard of a company called Zappos. Those were guys that used to work for Nordstrom 10 years, 15 years ago. They quit, and today they do over $1 billion online sales of shoes. And I know at Allen Edmonds, that's the same. It's growing and growing and growing and growing by leaps and bounds. Well, shortly after I bought Allen Edmonds, within about a year and a half, the whole place burned to the ground. So how do you think it felt that morning? Really, it was that night, and it was like now, it was about, it was even colder, it was about 5 below zero in this little town of Belgium, Wisconsin, and this 3-story shoe factory burned right to the ground. It was really a big event in that little village, and that night we all were at the tavern, which is only about 400 feet from the factory, watching the thing burn to the ground. But we're really fortunate. We had excellent insurance, fire insurance, and we had, most importantly, business interruption insurance because we absolutely were closed for a period of time. And during that interim, in one of these shoe factories that hadn't closed yet, because they're closed now, invite us to use their facilities to make shoes and continue to supply the customers what we could supply the customers with. But that insurance, that year was the largest insurance claim in the United States for a fire that we had. So it was quite dramatic, and it was in the news here and everything. And it was really heartbreaking. But, I mean, the next day we got up and we all got back to work. That's all we could do. And there was an empty schoolhouse, and we set up our offices in that schoolhouse. And the schoolhouse had a big bell. Whenever we had some good orders, I'd ring that bell and get everybody fired up. So that's kind of my working style was always one of walking around. I'm not a sitter, and I'm not a meeting guy, as my colleagues will attest to. I always like walking around, see what was going on. If the light was out and the maintenance guy was fixing a machine it wasn't beyond me to get a ladder and go up and fix that light, because that light wasn't earning us any money, but that machine was earning us money. So I always was a hands-on, and still am a hands-on person, with very low blood pressure, because my wife says I'm a giver of high blood pressure. But I have low blood pressure. But maybe we could take some questions for a while right now. You know, also, being an entrepreneur means good judgment. You've got to make good judgment. You have to make good business decisions. And there are no friends in business. There are no friends in business. Don't ever forget that. You have mentors, and you have customers, suppliers, but the mentors are your friends, but the rest really aren't your friends. It's a business association you have, and business is different from friendship, and you can't start mixing the two. Many people really get burned and are out of business because they start mixing their friendship with their business sense. So, and you have to have discipline. You have to have strong discipline in business. Excuse me. Entrepreneurship takes your life. You know, the first thing isn't to go out and lease a car and get a big desk. The first thing is to get customers and get the product out the door. So it really takes a lot of dedication. But I loved every minute of it. I mean, I really did. Some minutes I loved more than others, but I really loved working, and I loved all these challenges I had in my life of building and businesses and operating businesses, and I never thought it would ever fail. I mean, how could it fail? You worked really hard, you were a person of integrity, there was quality there, and that customer always came first. I used to call at Christmas time our top 100 customers. Now, by customers, I don't mean you folks, I mean the retailers. 100 retailers. And thank goodness, when I started that, they didn't have voicemail. It really helped when they put in voicemail. I used to call them from the car, I'd call them from home, I'd call them from the office. I called customers all the time, the top 100. I mean, that's just part of doing business, to keep your business going. And they all knew me that way. And then I'd try to go out and visit a lot of those people too throughout the year. But you know, I don't regret any of this. I really don't regret anything in my life. I really have a great life and was very, very successful. And that was always, I said to somebody the other day, so why don't you look at buying this business? The guy said, oh, I can't afford to lose any money. Whoa, what kind of mentality is that to start out? You know, you're not going to be successful if that's your mentality starting out doing that. You know, everybody wants to be in business, but everybody shouldn't be in business. That's why some people work for other people. If you treat those people well, you'll never have any problems. I mean, you have to treat them as you want to be treated. You have to treat them as your brothers, but they can't become your friends. They can't become your friends, because those people are truly looking for leadership. Who is the guru, Alex, that wrote the book? You know, everybody should join in and be, was it Deming or, yeah, Deming, I think, wrote this book, you know. And One Happy Family. Oh, I was reading that book. I thought, oh, this is terrific. Now we're going to have all this section here. We'll meet on Tuesdays and talk about production. And this section over here we'll make on Wednesdays and talk about marketing. And I'll never forget one old fella, he was a real shoemaker, a beautiful guy, Willie Bittner. Willie came in one day, he said, John, I want to tell you something. I just want to come here every day and make shoes. He said, I don't want to run this place. I don't want to go to those meetings. Do you mind? That really rang a bell. You know, some people do not want to be in management. Some people do not want to have the responsibility 24/7. Some people are happy in the jobs they're doing, and that was my old friend Willie Bittner, who passed away. So just, you know, some anecdotes about business. Coming from a show one time, I was in an elevator and with one of my colleagues, and the elevator was packed with people from the show. It was closing time, so it was all manufacturers and salespeople and everything. I said, Geez, I said to my colleague, I wonder how I put this down on my expense report. And from the back, one of the guys said, just put down anything. The old man will never know. Hey, that was me. Just put down anything. The old man will never know. I wasn't so old then either. Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun. I enjoy Marquette.